Now, often I would prefer that home designers design their roofs with function in mind over form. Now, what does this mean? It means that the function of a roof is to keep water out. So the simpler the roof design, the easier it is to keep the water out. So that's the function of a roof. Now, form is to make the roof look fancy. And whenever you turn something simple into something fancy, you bring about a lot of complications. Now, an example of roof designers preferring form over function is the use of intricate steps around the perimeter of a roof. If you have steps around the perimeter of a roof, it means that you have valleys to cope with the intricate design. Now, valleys bring about lots and lots of problems. But I guess without the problems that valleys bring about, roof repairers like us would have a lot less work to do. So from a selfish point of view, I want lots of valleys. But from a functional point of view, a roof should have no valleys. But who am I to tell a roof designer how to design a roof? So there are lots and lots of roofs here in Sydney with lots and lots of valleys. And valleys will need to be replaced. And we do valley replacements all the time. So I get a question on YouTube from a budding roofer saying, hey, why don't you do a video about how you would replace a roof valley? Now, in this instance, on a tile roof. So this is what this video is going to be about. How would we replace a valley on a tile roof? Now, replacement of the roof valley can be quite a simple thing to do if you know how to go about doing it. So the first thing you're going to do is you start at the top. And it's a matter of taking the ridge capping off. Best way to do it is a chisel. And what you do is you break up the capping where it joins onto the bedding. It allows you to lift the cap off. And then once the cap is off, then you can progressively remove the old bedding. And just make sure you got a bucket or something handy to put all the old bedding in. You don't want to have a mess up on the roof and create a messy workspace. It's a matter of going gentle, because what you want to do is make it easy for you when you eventually have a new valley in place and you've got to rebed the capping back on. So the tidier you make it when you remove the capping, the easier it is for you to put the capping back on afterwards when the new valley is in place. So gentle does it, and tap all the old bedding off, get the bedding out of the way, and you can then lift the ridge capping off so you can clear enough room for you to take the old valley out. So what you've done now, you've opened it up. Yep. Now, you need to do is look at how the old valley's been finished up. Yep. Because to make things easier, you use the old valley as a template to cut your new valley.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes things a lot easier.
You can always trust it?
Well,
unless it marries up with another one?
Well,
or even
what you would do is the valley should finish on the ridge board here.
Like if you drew an
That's
imaginary
right. Yeah,
line
a ridge board here, and then the ridge board there, right?
Yeah.
So you look at this valley, you go, these guys have done it right. Okay. Yeah. So if I duplicate that cut, right, in that fold, it'll end up at exactly the same place.
Yes.
And it won't cause any problems.
Awesome.
All right. So sometimes you take this apart and you see a valley that hasn't been cut properly, right? It's short on one side or short on the other side, and then if the water can get in and it's short, then it's going to cause a problem. Yes. And what you want to do then is
and obviously no upturns.
Correct. Yeah. Well. So what you want on your new valley is not to duplicate the fault.
Yep.
You only duplicate what's good. Yeah. So what you do, first thing you check, right, is that it's been done correctly.
Yep.
And once it hasn't been done correctly, okay, I'm going to use that as the template. Right. It makes it simpler to cut that top bit.
Top
right?
and bottom.
And the bottom. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So you use this as your template.
Because it's a bit of a I've struggled to find an easier way either,
Yep.
whether you're marrying it or doing this to try and get your valley up in here, and then you got to try and project where your thing is.
Yeah.
So I just find it you can do it, but
Yeah, it's harder.
you're guessing a lot.
Yeah, that's right. So the easy way is you look at the old one.
Yeah.
If the old one is right, you
Yeah.
copy it exactly.
Yeah.
If the old one's wrong, you mark out where it's wrong, and then you cut your
Add-
new
add
one.
a bit,
Add
yeah.
a bit, make it.
Or if you've got to do it
Yeah.
in halves. Yeah.
So that's a simple way of replacing a new valley, right?
Okay.
Now, once you've got the cap off, then you've got to remove the tiles. But before you take the tiles out, we have to know where the tiles go, because eventually we got to put the tiles back. So the easiest thing to do is you start off at the bottom, you get a marker, and the bottom row at the gutter is row number 1. So you put number 1 against the tiles, both on the left hand side and the right hand side of the valley, and you progressively work up the valley. So the second row is number 2, the third row is number 3, and all the way until you get to the top. Now once you've got the tiles numbered, then you got to start pulling the tiles off. So just find a place on the roof that's away from the valley. Now what you want to do is create a bit of a flatter platform on the roof to place all the tiles that you've stripped from the valley. So what you do is lift a couple of tiles off and you shove one of the tiles from the valley underneath, and that will raise the tiles and create a much flatter platform. Then you can start stacking the tiles on top of that tile, and then you'll end up with 2 stacks of tiles a little bit away from where you're working at the valley. Now once you've taken the tiles off both sides of the valley, then you can remove the old valley. And the old valley is usually held on by nails at the edge of the valley. You take the nails out and the valley just slides out. And it's important that you take that whole valley down onto the ground, because you're going to use the old valley as a template for the new valley. So on this job, you're using the Stramit tile valley, which has got a sharp peak on it. It's quite a good design for tile valleys, because it allows much better drainage and prevents debris being caught. But because this valley has got the ribs, it's a little bit harder to turn down at the valleys. So what you have to do is you've got to trim the ribs to allow you to create the bend down into the gutter. So the downstream end of the valley then turns down into the gutter. And once you've got the downstream end prepared, then you work on the upstream end. And you use the old valley as a template. You mark out where you've got to do your cut. And then once the cut's done, you do your turn up. It's a little bit easier on the turn up. Now on the turn up, you don't need to cut out the ribs, because that's going to cause a few issues with having gaps on the turn up. But on the turn-ups, on this particular style of valley, you can just manage to do the turn-up without causing a lot of unwanted buckling at the turn-up. So all you need to do is just have that vertical. You don't need to bend it backwards like the old valley, because there's a gap on the ridge board there, and then yeah, just have it like that. Yeah, that's it. Yep. Yep. You've got it.
I'll put a bit of silicone in
Yep.
those.
That's all you need. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And once the turn up at the top of the valley is done, then you're ready to take it back up on the roof and put it into place. And the next step is how we put this new valley back into place so that we make it safe to walk on, and also a little bit of detail on how we hold the sides of the valley in place. Alright, so once the 2 screws are in, the valley is not going to move. You
Yeah.
can walk up and down it and all that, right?
And
So normally, if you didn't do that, right,
yeah,
you would start at the bottom,
yeah,
and you would put the nails on either side, right?
like they were.
And then you would then come up, walk up, and put the next row of nails, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is the nails do two things. One, they hold the valley in position,
Yeah.
and two, they prevent the valley from sliding under you as you're walking up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you want to be walking up the valley as you work,
Safely.
right?
Yeah.
But if you use this method, you know that the valley is fully anchored. The valley is not going to move
And then you
anymore.
can run up and down it all.
You can run up and down it all you want, so it makes it a lot safer, right? So imagine that this tile comes across here, right, and it sits in there, right? Now, you don't put a nail anywhere near where the top of the tile is.
Okay.
Now, what happens is that if you were to put a nail there, you would be folding that over,
Yeah.
right? And it means that it reduces the capacity of the valley to sort of like the water can overflow, because once you got that cut tile sitting there, all right? Once you've got the cut tile sitting there, if you get any dirt trapped, so imagine the cut tile was sitting like that, right? Okay, when the dirt comes through here, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then it dams up, then if you've got a pinch point here, the water will go over. Right? That's too close to the top of the batten there.
Okay.
So if the tile sits on there, if you're going to bend it over, then water can come over. So you're going to miss this one. You're going to miss that one. Yeah, you can put one in there. And then you put one down on there because it's below the batten.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything
not above.
anything that's slightly above the batten,
Yeah.
right, you want to not put a nail in there because you're going to cause a pinch point. So now I hope you've learned a few tricks about replacing a roof valley on a tile roof. But be aware that we haven't covered a lot of the other intricacies of roof valleys and why they're potentially one of the worst performing elements on a roof. And because of this, we will go a lot deeper in future videos about roof valleys, because there's a lot more to learn about how these roof valleys perform. So if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to show you.